Hey everybody, Erica Serwin here from Pink Buckaroo Designs. I've got a fun Resourceful Rusty card for you. This one we're going to do some watercoloring. This is an online exclusive if you're looking for this adorable stamp set. You can find it on the Stampin Up website. It's not in the catalog. It is on the website. And I'm also using another online exclusive called More Than Autumn. I'm going to use that little apple right there to make his little apples. And there is a die for it as well. Okay, so we're going to do some watercoloring. Let's do that first. All right, in order to make this color really intense, I decided instead of using my stamp pads, I'm going to use my ink refills. We're going to use Azure Afternoon. I'm going to put a few drops of that on one of my clear blocks, and Gray Granite or Smoky Slate, whichever one you grab first, really. All right, I've got some water here, and I'm going to just kind of prime my piece. You can see it's a little bit tinged blue from the last time I made this card. I'm going to take my water and dilute that ink refill, but not by a ton. And I'm just going to kind of drop that color in. I want it to stay pretty intense, so I don't want to dilute it too much. All right, now I'm going to clean that. And we're going to move over to that gray. And we're going to do the same thing down here. I'm just kind of dropping that color. I want it to spread out and be kind of wild. Now, you're going to want to let this dry, okay? And then come in and do it again. Drop that color. You'll have different layers of color, a layer of intensity, really, in color. When you do this, it kind of washes out a little bit with all the water, but if you add on the layers, you're going to get that really intense color. The next thing I like to do is to add some texture, and I'm going to take some coarse salt and just drop it on there, and that's going to create that kind of separated, kind of edgy, if you will, look. The last thing I like to do, and I've got one of these done. Let me move this out of the way. You need to give it some time to dry, of course. The last thing I like to do is splatter on some color, either with the watercolors you have out or with a Stampin' Blend. So I'm just going to take my Azure Afternoon and just splatter on some more color. If you've got your dark gray granite, you could do that down here too. Okay, and there is our background. It's fun to play with watercolors, and when you use the ink refill, you get a little bit more of an intense color. Okay, we're gonna stamp our little guy in Memento Black on basic white. You know, I didn't do him very well. His little foot seems to not be stamped very well. There we go. And then let's take the apple, and we're going to stamp the apple from More Than Autumn 3 times. Memento Black on basic white. Now I'm going to use my Peach Pie. I'm going to start with my Peach Pie Light, just like I did with my previous project. And I'm going to color him with Peach Pie. I'm going to give him a full coating of Peach Pie. Now I'm only going to do his ears and this little V that comes down above his nose, and then his body. I'm going to leave his belly for the end because we're going to do a little bit of blending with our color lifter there. All right, now I'm going to take my dark, and I'm going to add in some dark underneath where all of this would be creating a shadow. And then take your light and just kind of blend all of that out towards the edge. I am going to add in some more dark here, and maybe like that, and underneath his arm. You know, let's just do some up here too, like this. And then you can blend all that together. All right, now for his belly, I'm going to take the light. I'm going to do kind of a U. And then I'm going to take my color lifter, and I'm going to pull that color towards the middle. It's gonna kind of bleed out a little bit. I'm gonna add a little bit of color here to his cheeks as well. Just a little, and I'm gonna blend that out. Okay. Now, give your color lifter a minute to dry, and then you can take your petal pink and add in some rosy cheeks if you'd like. All right, now let's take our real red, Stampin' Blend, color those apples. I'm not gonna color that one. We're gonna fussy cut him. There's no dies for Rusty. There are some dies for these apples, so we will die cut those. A little mix of die cutting and fussy cutting. Okay, Granny Apple Green for the leaves on those apples. All right, now you want to grab your paper snips, and we're going to start with Rusty. I'm going to just cut around him to get all this extra cardstock out of the way. And then we're just going to cut him out. I'm going to go along carefully, just staying right on the outside edge of his body. I'm going to come back in here in just a minute. I like to do the easy stuff first and then go back into the nooks and crannies at the end. When you stay on the outside of the line, it creates an illusion. Your eye is only going to see that straight black line and not any crooked cutting that you may or may not have. All right, now in here, I'm not going to worry about that apple stem. That's too small. But I don't want to cut off his ear. So I'm just going to be real careful. There we go. Isn't he adorable? All right, now I'm going to cut off this excess right here. We're going to do some embossing also. I have a strip of Pebbled Path. Now, Pebbled Path is a retiring in color, and that means that at the end of April, it will be retired. Well, beginning of May, if you will. And if you like it, you need to make sure to get your Pebbled Path cardstock, Pebbled Path ink, all of the things before they are gone for good. This is a really nice neutral. All right, I'm gonna take this is the mini corrugated embossing folder. I'm gonna line that up with the bottom line. See, we have a line here to help you keep it straight. I've taken off all but plate 1. I'm gonna run this through with plate 4 on top. And then you've got this nice little piece of corrugated cardstock. All right, let's bring back our regular plates 2 and 3, and then we'll grab that little apple die. And if I haven't lost my apples, there they are. We will cut these out. Okay, let's get all of our pieces. Another thing I have done ahead of time is to emboss our sentiment on the right side of a basic black Hearts and Hugs banner. I embossed it with Versamark and white embossing powder. All right, we're gonna take our corrugated piece. Oh no, that's all right, we can fix that. We're gonna put one end here and one end will overlap a little bit because it stretched out a little too long. Let's make that straight. Now we're going to take this piece, and this is the piece I did previously. The other one's definitely not dry yet. You're going to need to give yourself a good half hour probably. If you use a lot of water like me, you'll need to give yourself a good half hour. You can also use your heat tool to hurry things along. However, heat tool does give you a different water look. You don't get the natural water dry lines like that. All right, we're going to divide our 2 colors with our banner like that. Notice I stamped it on the right side so that we'll have room for little Rusty right here. And then I'm going to take my many dimensionals And we're gonna put them on here so that our apples are falling. He's trying to catch them all. He's trying to keep them all off the ground. And we'll have them falling like that. All right, last but not least, I have some gray granite or smoky slate. Either one will work. Baker's twine from our neutral Baker's twine pack. This twine I find is kind of curly, so if you take it off the bolt, kind of rub it through your fingers, it will straighten out. And then I'm going to get it nice and perfect, hopefully. And we'll get a mini glue dot over here. I'm going to put that right there. We need to cut those ends off. Now, I've really been trying to step up the end sides of my cards. So let me grab this basic white piece. I'm not going to do anything overly crazy, but I am going to take that little apple and just carry over that design on the inside. We're not going to die cut these. We'll just color them. And then you have plenty of room to, you know, write your sentiment. You can do it. You probably need to write something pretty meaningful. And you know what else I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take my Azure Afternoon and just kind of do a little flicking like that. Carry over that kind of mess from the front. And then we'll put it on the inside. And there you go, little Resourceful Rusty. You can tell different layers of ink. I did 2 separate layers here. Here I built all the ink at the same time. Just depends on how much time you have. All right, you guys, make sure you hop over to my blog, grab that free PDF, check out the other Resourceful Rusty projects. Let me know if you have any questions.